It's now time for What's Up Asheville, sponsored by the City of Asheville, with the host, Mr. Sam Parada, and here he is.
Hey Asheville, welcome to What's Up Asheville here on 100.7 FM, WRES. I'm your host Sam Parada, Communication Specialist with the City of Asheville. Today we have Debbie Alford. She's been in the show before to talk about homeless issues. She's the Homeless Strategies Program Specialist. Big title with the city. She's a colleague. And today we have a special guest, Melanie Robertson, CoC Community Relations Chair. And the CoC is the Continuum of Care, which we'll be talking about today. And she's also the co-founder of Wildflower House. What's up?
That is correct. It's great to be here today with y'all. And as I was sharing a little earlier, Asheville native and passionate about all things Asheville, and especially what we're here to talk about today.
Yes.
Is how we can, as a community, serve our vulnerable neighbors, our unhoused folks. So looking forward to the conversation we have today. Thanks, Sam.
Oh, very happy for you to be here.
Yeah.
And now, Debbie, let's just do a little recap because it's been a while since you've been here. Tell me what it is that you do on a day-to-day. What was your job? How you do?
Well, the Homeless Strategy Division has the designation as the lead agency for the Continuum of Care, which I know we're going to dive into in a little bit. But our role as a team is to support our community's work together in ending homelessness. So that looks like helping facilitate meetings and creating materials and supporting the CoC Leadership Board. I work with homeless service providers to make sure that they are, have the best practices that they need in order to connect with clients. So I host a lot of trainings about trauma-informed care, and these are the shelters in our community, and this is how we can help have some housing problem-solving conversations to help folks exit homelessness quickly, because that is the goal, is to end homelessness in our community.
Yeah, that sounds like a very difficult work, but we're happy that you're doing it.
Yeah, it's a great group to work with, and I get to work with some awesome folks like Melanie through the CoC.
And Melanie, so the CoC started last year.
Yeah, it's about a year old now.
Right.
And it's made out of members of the community, so...
Right. And previous to the reorganization of what we're calling the Continuum of Care, we had HIAC, and that entailed, again, a board and that oversaw homeless needs that throughout the community. That board was made up of different folks professionally and from the faith community, and I was able to work with the Homeless Coalition, and so it all kind of merged together to be reorganized. And what's been wonderful about finally having a staff with the strategy division is being able to focus on membership. And that's part of what my job is community relations, is working on how do we communicate the message of what homelessness is, why it's important to our community to be involved, and that entails education. And we're developing a message. And so today, Sam, you can also become a member of our Continuum of Care of the CoC, because you can sign up as an individual and also as an organization. And so many folks don't realize that that's all it is just bringing your concerns, bringing your voice. And so being communications, community relations involves a lot of knowing our community, getting to know where they are, who they are, and how important their voice is to helping bring solutions.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, this is me who doesn't work in the field that you do, but homelessness affects everyone. It's not just that's one person who's suffering like that. It's a whole community aspect. So I'm glad that you mentioned the Continuum of Care and how the city is working with this group because it really is a team effort. It's not just like an issue that the city can solve by itself. So
that's absolutely right. And so the CoC has 472 members now after a year, a little
almost
over a
500,
year.
so close to 500.
I know, it's really great. 394 of those are individual members, and then the other 78 are organizational members. And those organizations include local governments and businesses and nonprofits. Any organization that is interested in homelessness can join as an organization, and then any individual that is interested in homelessness and taking action together, as Melanie was talking about, can also join. And that is really how the city of Asheville can align its resources and work together with the community to help alleviate homelessness in our community. The city can't do it alone. There's a lot of people already doing great work in our community around homelessness.
So let me ask you, how do I sign up?
Yeah, there's a website. You can search Asheville Buncombe Continuum of Care, and you'll get to that website, and you can click the link to join. It's a short membership form, takes 5 to 8 minutes to complete, and then you're a member. And there's not a commitment beyond that. You can stay up to date through a regular information sharing and newsletters from the Homeless Strategy Division, but you can also get as involved as you want. You can become a committee chair if you want. All committee chairs and committee members and board members are first CoC members as well. And so it's a great collaboration. I think it is really our community's way of working together.
And you meet monthly, every single month.
Yeah, the board is meeting on a monthly basis right now, rotating between virtual and in person. And the membership meetings are like 2 weeks after that board meeting, so that is a good platform for members to engage with one another, to learn about the collaborative work that's happening in the community, discuss important issues and concerns.
Right. And along with that, I think coming to the membership meetings is a great networking opportunity. And Debbie used the word collaborative, and that is a big deal because we can't do it alone. And when you get agencies in the same room together, and when I say agencies, those who really are service providers, it's hard sometimes to take that hat off because you're constantly looking for ways to support your organization. And so being part of the CoC opens the door to realizing, I really need this agency down the street to work with because we are interested in the same things, we serve the same people, and we can make a bigger impact when we work together. And so that really is, when you say the continuum of care, that's what that means, is that we're working and growing and learning how to be more effective together. And, as Debbie was saying, previously, I think a lot of community members look to the city, look to the county to solve all the problems. And because it affects you and me, those of us who live in this community, it's great to know that I can be part of making a difference.
Yeah, so before the Continuum of Care, before any kind of organized meetings and, networking, bring together the service providers, it was just like, oh, here's a shelter, here's another one, and everyone figure it out.
There wasn't a lot of intentional collaboration and shared responsibility. People were working really hard, boots on the ground, helping people resolve their issues of homelessness, but there wasn't that big picture representation before.
Okay, well, so now that everyone's together and meeting, we also have things like your monthly learning series.
Yeah,
talk about it.
Yeah, so that's a great segue into the Community Relations Committee, because now that Community Relations Committee has been seated and they're up and running, they've had a few meetings.
Yeah, we've had about 3, I think.
Three meetings. They have the opportunity to really guide education and how that will proceed within the CoC and the larger community. And so they've had the opportunity to attend the learning series that's been ongoing for the past year and a half. It's wild. But they've had the opportunity to attend that. They have some feedback, and then they're going to discuss in an upcoming meeting how learning and education for the public will continue. And so I'm excited to have that input and support from the committee. They might take on pieces of education at some point in the future. Or it could be staff-led for now. Who knows? The opportunities are endless now. What we can do with a lot of brains in the room. So.
Well, and speaking of education, we ought to talk about what is happening this afternoon at UNCA.
So this afternoon, today,
yes.
Wednesday, May 28th.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Because this will play on...
Right, Wednesday, May 28th. This afternoon is an educational opportunity, and it came about as an invitation from their program, OLLI, and I don't even know what that acronym is. I guess it's for senior adults who want continuing education and different opportunities. And so, Debbie, I'm going to let you share a little bit more about what that is, but it is a part of our strategy to educate the community.
Yeah, so I often do presentations about homelessness and facilitate those conversations in the broader community. And so groups will reach out to the Homeless Strategy Division for more information or requests for us to speak with larger groups. And so this is one of those instances. A couple of those participants in the OLLI program actually participated in the learning series months ago before Helene. And we're just really interested in bringing that conversation to their larger group. And so I'll be presenting about the causes of homelessness, what homelessness looks like now, a little bit of dynamic with the storm behind us and how that's affecting people, but just helping them think about how they can be involved, and whether that's joining the CoC or volunteering with a nonprofit that's doing work and those kinds of things.
And what I love about that, getting this opportunity, is that it was someone who had attended a learning session. And I think what's cool about all of that is this person is an influencer and was able to turn around and go, hey, we need this at OLLI. Mm-hmm. And so it's another audience. Mm-hmm. And so with that, Debbie's put together a panel of folks that are part of the board of our CoC. And so I love that we're in an academic environment at UNCA, and that a lot of the folks that are going to be attending are folks that are influencers, and to never ever assume that someone in the audience is not going to be able to be an incredible messenger and spread, called the gospel of the strategy division of our CoC. But it's true, because what is the gospel? It's good news. And it is good news. I think part of my hope and being, chairing this committee is that it's not hopeless, is that we have an opportunity to really put some positive energy behind it, because homelessness is hard, it's messy, and it can be a downer, but it doesn't have to be. And so that's a lot of, I think, the challenge that we have, is to help our community begin to see hope that can bring hope to those who need it.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said. So thank you for that. And also, if you have not had a chance to go watch Debbie's homeless learning series, you have three different meetings, or
three sessions that culminate in a course, if you will, 3 sessions in that series. And so those are posted online. They're on pause at the moment, but we'll have new dates posted after the Community Relations Committee has that conversation, and they decide how to proceed with that. But one of the things I really love about the Continuum of Care over the last year is that as that body has really gotten organized and membership has grown, the board has really worked together to stand up committees like the Community Relations Committee. And so there are 5 committees identified in the charter.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, so there's all this work happening.
Yeah.
And members, the public is making this happen, right? CoC members are making this work happen. So one of the first committees to to be stood up was the nominating and membership committee, because they were really driving membership engagement and standing up all the other committees. So they have been up and running for a while. Then the funding committee has been stood up, and they've really been working on collaborating around both federal funding and local funding and bringing those non-traditional funders to the table as well. System performance has been stood up, and they are really digging into data, looking at how programs and organizations perform in our community, how people are engaging with homeless services, and then what are we missing? Where are the gaps in services? And so they just started right before the Community Relations Committee, and they're doing some great work. Community Relations is now up and running, and we have one more committee that is pending. The system planning and implementation group, and that group will really be charged with, creating shared policies and standards of care for the community, so that all organizations can have the same. If you get case management here, it's going to be similar to case management at this organization.
That's great.
So it provides this common platform for care. And we'll really be supporting, that group will also be really supporting the strategic plan that the board has been working on over the last several months. The new CoC year starts in July, and so that strategic plan will be guiding the work of the CoC for the next 3 years and helping the committees kind of know where their direction is and what they need to be working on.
Right. And I think, too, Debbie, maybe when you were here the last time, you all talked a little bit more about our charge as a community from the national group that came in. And, so we've had some mentoring and guidance and, being able to formulate and be as effective as possible. And that has been, I think, for all of us, comforting, if I can say that. And having folks that have worked with other groups around the nation and helping us identify those things that we can put our hand to and how we can do better as a community. And as we get talking a little bit more about Helene and the effect that it's had on our homeless community, and before Helene, our challenge was to reduce homelessness by 50% by 2025. And so have we forgot that? No. But it's created, a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So Melanie is talking about the National Alliance to End Homelessness collaboration that happened a few years ago. They gave us a set of over 100 recommendations for how our community can work better together at ending homelessness, and their number one recommendation was restructuring our continuum of care and creating this collaboration that we now have today. And along that journey, community members have been doing a large majority of that work in CoC membership, and so there's been committees creating charters and language around how we work together. And so they've really done a lot of that background work with assistance from technical assistance. So we've also had technical assistance along the way to help make sure that our community has some of those best practices aligned and strategies, and is learning from other CoCs, because there's over 400 Continuum of Cares across the country. So this is a federal framework that enables local communities to plan and collaborate together, and each CoC has its own unique charter.
Right.
I think it's a great place to start. Just getting everyone together, making sure that people are receiving the services that they need. So you mentioned Helene. I feel like we've talked about Helene on every episode since it happened.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
You have some numbers on how Helene impacted our housing, our homeless population. So
sure. So in our community, and Melanie can speak more to some of her personal experiences with folks experiencing homelessness, but we lost thousands of affordable housing units that were damaged, and so those units may still be out of commission depending on where they are in the reconstruction phase, right? And then we lost about 1,000 units of affordable housing in our community across Buncombe County. And so that has had a really huge impact on folks that were already housed that didn't expect to find themselves in a housing crisis. We know that folks are more vulnerable to homelessness when they don't have the community supports that they need to weather crises like Helene.
Yeah.
Most of us, I mean, I think many of us went through Helene together, and many of us are still housed. But where people become homeless and experience that housing crisis if they don't have enough support during that traumatic time, a lot of our affordable housing was in these flood zones that never expected to flood because they were further away from the rivers. And so this was not something that people had planned for because it never happens. And so folks were caught off guard and didn't have the supports that they need. A lot of folks in our community don't have 3 months of savings,
Right.
you know, to help weather that change. And then everyone they know is also either living in poverty or doesn't have the community support or living day to day. Our jobs were impacted by Helene, and so people didn't have the income to pay rent. All that's been a lot that's impacted folks experiencing
So let
homelessness.
me ask you this. If you were impacted by Helene, or if you are thinking you may become homeless soon, or if you're experiencing homelessness, period, can people go to the CoC to find resources and assistance?
So the CoC is not a direct service provider because it is that way of pulling people together that are already doing the great work. So if you are experiencing homelessness due to Helene, you're really trying to figure out your pathway because of Helene, you should reach out to North Carolina Disaster Case Management. That information is available online, and they can help you determine your next steps. If you're experiencing homelessness in our community, one of the other pathways to get connected with services is through A Hope Day Center at 19 North Ann Street, just a few blocks away from us in downtown. Their hours are primarily in the morning, Monday through Friday, but they're a great way to just connect with staff and, again, figure out what your next steps are.
And I'm sure if you're listening, you know someone who may be struggling or who you think may struggle. I mean, the CoC has a lot of people. So
Yeah.
even if you don't remember anything we just said, show up, you can ask questions, and you can get help for whoever you need help for.
Correct. You know, again, as Debbie was sharing, the broad, our overarching community of the CoC and how we can collaborate together. Working with Wildflower House, which is the nonprofit that I helped found, started out as a shelter for women, and which we did provide, you know, helped work with other agencies to find housing if it wasn't with us. We were all working together. And so what Helene did is it caused us to pivot because the focus was on not just helping find housing, but also furnishing, because folks lost everything. And so we decided right now this is the focus. This is what we need to do. And so working with FEMA, working with the Displacement Commission and, you know, all of that, we have been able to work together with a community of agencies to find folks to refer to work together, and even down to microwaves and bedding and stuff like that, is to call and say, hey, we need a queen size bed, y'all got one? And so that is where that hope comes in, is when we can work together and we can do the high five, like, you know what, we were able to furnish a home today. And it wasn't just Wildflower House, it was Wildflower House working with Homeward Bound, working with Safe Shelter, working with, you know, Haywood Street, working, you know, I could go on and on and on about how it's not just one, and that we work together. And so it has been, again, what do I say? I guess exhausting, but exhilarating. Exhilarated, rewarding. It's rewarding, you know, and it is. It's just wonderful when you're able to meet the needs of folks who were, before they came into your path, were really at a place of desperation and hopelessness. And so, you know, folks that are listening or watching today, this is a way you can get involved. If you have furnishing, if you have things that are lightly used, there are not just Wildflower House, but Homeward Bound, there's others who will be able to take those furnishings and help a family, help an individual who is getting housing. Of course, they got to get a house first or an apartment first. Mm-hmm. And that is still an incredible need.
But then there's those service providers who
Yes.
can help people with that, and that's where the CoC comes
Yeah,
together.
and that is what Melanie's talking about, is the opportunity the CoC provides to help service providers maximize their efforts, right?
Yes.
Like, instead of Wildflower House trying to do it all themselves, they know what they're good at, they know who the other participants are in the system, and they know when to connect their participants with other organizations that are doing good work that can help fill those gaps that folks have. And so that's really another key way that the CoC benefits our community, is by maximizing efforts, that collaborative participatory work.
Mm-hmm. I know it took the CoC a while to like find some footing and like get settled. And I know it takes a lot of time to, you know, do things like gather data from all the different service providers. But I'd be very interested. Maybe next year we can do a follow up and see, like, if you have numbers, how many people have you helped before and after the storm, before and after the CoC was became a thing. Because it sounds like a lot of good work and a lot of work that is still very difficult. So, you know, that teamwork mechanic component to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that the CoC is really doing to make progress. You know, from the National Alliance to End Homelessness recommendations to current, people in the community know that there is visible homelessness. There's a lot of unsheltered homelessness in our community, and that's only increased due to Helene. And the CoC knows that, and the CoC board recently set up a work group to think about what new emergency shelter we need in our community, where are the gaps in emergency shelter, and how do we increase that bed availability for folks that are in a housing crisis and need shelter. And so that's one of the things that the CoC will be working on in the next year. The CoC recently completed a process for creating a plan for how to compensate people with lived experience of homelessness for their participation, specifically in committee members, committee meetings, and board meetings, because this work is not possible with those experts providing input and guidance on the way that we work together as a community. And so that compensation plan was approved at the last board meeting. We needed, because the CoC wanted to pay people with lived experience of homelessness for their participation, there needed to be a fiscal sponsor. So the board initiated a process to select a fiscal sponsor and voted on Goodwill Industries as the fiscal sponsor going forward. And so this is just all really great foundational work that needed to happen to enable the CoC to work together.
Right.
I mean, a company hires a consultant who has experience in the field. So I don't want to say that it may sound ugly, but like, you know, homelessness, it is an experience, and you can, I guess, become a professional to assist people who are going through it for the first time.
Yeah, you know, and thinking about homelessness is an experience. I think it's important for folks to know that the CoC really is intentional on having folks with lived experience at the table, involved in every committee, because we can plan and we can think we're doing a good job with planning, but without folks who have lived experience and helping us really understand what that experience is, but what they really need. The PIT count, which is point in time that Debbie does a great job with every year.
The CoC
does
a great job.
The CoC, but your team, I know, but I'm just saying the CoC, the volunteers that go out, but it does have to have organization. And I've been able to do that in the last few years. And I learn so much from the folks that we interview, that we asked to do our surveys. And this year, we had 3 pages or so of things that they asked us to remember about those who have lived experience. And it's very sobering, it's very humbling. It's a reminder of the privilege that we have who are not experiencing homelessness. And that's my request. I think that's part of when we're out educating the community, is to see the behind the homeless person as an individual, as part of humanity. And that to me is the secret.
Well, and people experiencing homelessness have told us
Yes.
as a community time and time again that they want to be seen as human, that they are human, that they had jobs, that people lived in our community before they were in this housing crisis. And so they are key to creating solutions that work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, I don't know how else to end the show, but with those great words of wisdom, we need more people like you for sure. And I'll go sign up. Robertson is recorded.
Yeah, so everybody who's listening and watching today, please join the CoC. If you have questions about the Continuum of Care, you can reach out to Melanie or myself. All of the information that we've talked about today is available on the CoC landing page, which is easily Googleable. But yeah, that would be my challenge to our listeners today, is do research about the Continuum of Care, reach out to get more information, attend a learning series or session, a panel conversation. The board meetings are happening on a regular basis. That's a great way to get involved and to find out what's happening, so you can find those meetings on the landing page as well.
Well, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
And we'll see you next time on What's Up Asheville. Be good to each other, Asheville.
You've been listening to What's Up Asheville, sponsored by the City of Asheville in collaboration with WRS 100.7 FM. This program will re-air every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12